All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Tim Carter. I'm the Shenandoah County Sheriff, and with me today I have my friend Owen Heine. Owen is a Wildlife Resources Conservation Police Officer.
Correct.
And we're going to talk a little bit about water safety and water issues today. And one of the things that we want to get started with are just kind of general statistics. Because I remember the last time we did one of these, it's kind of surprising the incidents you have on the water, in the Commonwealth, and in our region. So I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to highlight first.
I do. So I brought with me the boating incident and fatalities, injuries from 2023.
Okay.
So our agency is the lead boating agency in Virginia. So when a boat accident happens, if it's reportable, then we need to do a report, and we track all that data and send that off to the Coast Guard.
Right.
So just for a snapshot of Virginia, and this was a kind of eye-catching for me, there's 52,000 river miles in Virginia.
Right.
Of course, we know we've got coastline and tidal shore, but you don't really think about that number of river miles. Inland lakes, we've got 116,000 acres of inland lakes, and we do have incidents and unfortunately drownings on those water bodies as well. Mm-hmm. So what makes up a reportable boat accident is any incident where there was damage over $2,000 by or to a vessel or its equipment, which adds up quickly. I mean, you're talking about the equipment on a boat, it adds up pretty fast. Injury requiring medical attention beyond first aid, loss of life, or disappearance of any person from a vessel.
Right.
So last year there were 59 reportable incidents in the Commonwealth. That involved 85 vessels, 39 people were injured, and unfortunately there was 8 fatalities. One thing to note, alcohol was not a factor in any of the fatalities. However, in 63% of the fatal incidents, no life jacket was worn.
We talked about the importance of having a life jacket.
Yeah, and not just having. I mean, the law requires
wearing
you
it.
have it.
Right.
But you
Wearing
really
it.
need to wear it.
It's
kind of like thinking that right before the impact of a car accident, you're going to be able to put your seatbelt on.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
Paddlecraft, which are canoes, kayaks, et cetera, were 38% of fatal incidents. And again, 63, the fatalities, there was no life jacket was worn. So if you look at the 10-year trend, there was a spike of incidents and fatalities right around COVID. I guess people were getting back out on the water. Maybe they hadn't been in a long time. Maybe we're a little rusty around the boat.
Right.
So 2020, there was a spike. Fortunately, it's come down. Last year, 2023, you can definitely see the trending down,
right,
and number of incidents, and of course that is less injuries and less fatalities as well.
As far as like generally the age groups, is it mostly adults that we're looking at?
Mostly adults. Let me see if I can find that exact. We pretty much have this data, so if you're interested, you can go to our website, which will be posted here at the end of the podcast. And this report, if it's not released yet, it will be soon. So for instance, in 2023, the boat incidents by age of operator, it was actually the vast majority were 56 years of age and older.
Right. Yeah, older adults. I think a lot of times people think it's kids, but it's actually people that, quite frankly, they're older.
And it's like anything else. I mean, if you get habituated to doing something,
sometimes bad habits
become eventually. If you keep doing that, one day there's going to be a consequence.
Exactly.
So, if you look at the fatalities by vessel type, it looks like there was 5 that were on open motor boats. 2 in a canoe, and I think that's the incident that I'll talk about in a minute, where they were both on the same canoe. And 1 was a whitewater raft, which actually I went to that one. I think that was down in Bedford County. But, high water was bad weather, and high water often are factors in these as well.
Yeah, I remember, I think the last time we talked, there's a significant amount of time that your department deals with these issues just in our region. I mean, in our region, and I'm talking about the Northern Valley region.
Correct.
I think people when they think of boating, they think of the large lakes, the bigger areas, which I'm sure they have their share of problems and issues. But I was surprised last time at the amount of issues that we have just in our neck of the woods.
We do. There's 2 fatalities from Page County that was both in the same incident that I'll talk about. Mm-hmm. I know we've had fatalities in Clark County in recent memory. Mm-hmm. And some of these are people, I've worked some in Page County as well, where they're kayaking, they don't have a PFD, they go overboard for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. It could be medical, it could be they're exhausted from, paddling upriver or something. But if they go over, whether there's alcohol as a factor or, other narcotics or just overexertion.
Yeah, fatigue maybe or something.
You might be a good swimmer, but you can get tangled up in fishing line, you can get tangled up in plants and things that are under the water that you don't even see that'll keep you from coming back up. Mm-hmm. Or there's rocks. I mean, you can fall out.
Hit your head. There's also just that panic would set in when something.
So there's a high number
fast happens like that.
High number of fatalities on in January, and that you look at most of these fatalities were capsizing was the cause, and you think about hitting that water in January, how cold that is. Mm-hmm. That just by itself, you've got that natural reaction to gasp for air. And if you're underwater when that happens, you're already at a disadvantage.
So biggest tips or something you would want to share with people with regard to safety, water safety, with regard to that?
So
these statistics that we're seeing? I mean, I know you talked about the personal flotation device.
Right.
And wearing it.
Right. You really should wear it. And I'm not talking about wearing the giant orange ones, the Coast Guard approved orange horseshoes. I mean, people have those on the boat, but to wear that all day on the boat would be pretty uncomfortable. But they have self-inflating, they have automatic inflating ones that you can buy. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's kind of like, a motorcycle helmet. How much value do you put on your own head? How much is your life worth? Is it a $10 life jacket to save your life, or would you pay $100 to have something that's going to work as soon as you hit the water, even if you're unconscious?
Right.
So you can wear these things, and they are out of your way. If you look at fishermen in bass contests, tournaments and things, you'll see them wearing the wearable Type 3 PFDs that are inflatable. Mm-hmm. And you almost don't know that you have it on, but you definitely are wearing it. And, if you go overboard, if there's wind or current, you're immediately being separated from that boat.
Right.
So you need to think about that, just how, even if you're a good swimmer, you're trying to keep up with a boat that's drifting away from you.
Right.
You're going to want that life jacket.
Right.
So that you were asking for tips. That's one, is wear it. Buy one that's comfortable that you will wear. Another is the safety lanyard, the kill switch lanyard. So it's required on jet skis. A lot of modern boats, probably all of them, have a lanyard attached to a kill switch that you attach to your person, like your wrist, your belt, your life jacket, whatever it is. It's
kind of like a treadmill thing that
exactly.
would be on. Right.
Exactly. So if you get ejected for whatever reason, it could be a boat malfunction or you struck something while underway, whatever it is that caused you to be ejected, at least the boat is going to stop running. Right. And there are numerous incidents where fatalities have occurred, and I worked one at Holiday Lake up in Frederick County, where without the lanyard attached, or if your boat is older and doesn't have one, if you get ejected, the boat starts turning in a circle. And it won't turn off. I mean, it's just going to keep going in a circle. and you're swimming and you're trying to get away from this boat that's cycling back around, and obviously the prop is what's causing it to, the prop's rotating, and it makes the boat usually turn to the left, and it's coming around, it's going to come back and may strike you. And that was, you may have survived the initial accident that caused you to go over, but now you're trying to dodge this motorboat that's trying to run you over every, couple seconds when it cycles back around. So there's numerous reasons to wear that kill switch lanyard, especially if you're by yourself.
Right. I agree. Well, let's see. As far as there's a lot of river recreation that happens in our county. And I know we were talking earlier about low water dams. Is that what the terminology was, or lower dams?
So we call these low head dams.
Low head dams.
And they can be only a few feet tall. They can be 3 feet, 5 feet tall, and they are deadly. There are many of them throughout Virginia. We're slowly trying to eliminate them. A lot of these hydroelectric ones aren't even used anymore.
So is there like a way that people can, is there a map for people? If someone's going to navigate the river here in our county, would they be able to go somewhere and go, hey, here's where you will find these?
So if you go to our website and you click on, you can go to the boating tab, and then you can go to basically water bodies, and you can search by water body. So I have the Shenandoah, the North Fork of the Shenandoah River is pulled up.
Okay.
It says it flows 116 miles from northern Rockingham County to the town of Front Royal, and it joins the South Fork, and then they become just the Shenandoah. It goes all the way to Harper's Ferry.
Right.
So on this tab on our website, it says for this particular waterway, and we have them all on here, whatever you're going to be boating on. There's an ideal river to float by canoe. There's good fishing, clear water. However, there can be low flows and algal blooms in the summertime. And the primary navigational hazard are 6 dams and several low water bridges. The 6 dams, they run from Timberville all the way to close to Riverton. Right. So you can encounter these anywhere on that stretch. Some of them are kind of half broken over. Some, like the one in Strasburg, is really small, and it's already got kind of a V knocked out of it. I think it's behind the VFW in Strasburg. And, of course, you about Bernshire's Dam. Right. But there's other ones. There's one in Edinburgh, kind of in the Water Street area. And I forget the name of the homes up where that neighborhood is, Cliffside maybe. Right. Okay. So there's a dam there that people may not know about, unless you live there. Right. There's a dam that is downstream from our Chapman's Landing boat ramp. If you tried to float from there to, say, Arts Road, there's 2 dams that you're going to have to cross, or from there to, say, the low water bridge at the Seven Bend State Park. You're going to have to navigate around and portage around the dam. I think they call it Chapman's Dam. And it's, there's no signage. There's no warning that that's coming. There is signage that is on the water and on the shores. Right. But if you're not paying attention, you can miss that. Right. And I believe that was involved in like 7 fatalities. There was a group of tubers in the Richmond area. That was last summer or 2 summers ago. And I think they ended up going over a dam or something to that effect, floating down, and ran into that. And, they can be deadly. If you don't know they're approaching and you go over and high water has taken away the warning buoys or the signs are overgrown or whatever. So you really need to take it upon yourself to do some research when you're going to do a float. Right. And make sure that you're not going to have to deal with a dam, because some have decent portage and some are terrible. Right. It just really depends. And a lot of, I know people, like you say, that live in the community, they probably float the same general areas, and they have a general understanding of what they're dealing with. But there are a lot of people that come in from out of the area that don't. Right. So, it can be extremely, it's extremely enjoyable, but it can be dangerous as well. And I would say, from personal experience, know your limitations. I did a water rescue in Page County where these guys had put over a John boat with a paddle, not a motor, just a paddle, which, if you ever try to paddle a John boat, it's not like a canoe or a kayak. It's not going to go well. The river was already at flood stage, and they almost immediately capsized, and one swam out. The other one stayed with the boat until he crashed into an island that was underwater, but he could still stand and had to be rescued. So after we dealt with that, we brought him back to the boat ramp. We had medical check him out. There was a group of kayakers that showed up that was going to put on the river with children and had no concept by looking at this river that's raging, chocolate milk colored.
And in their minds, that's the time to go because the water's up and it's time to go. And they don't understand the deadfall that's underneath them now that's wasn't there the day before, that they saw it when it looked pretty.
Right. And this, they're determined they're going to go on the water today, and there was no legal way other than the fact they didn't have life jackets for the kids, which is why we didn't let them put over. But had they had everything, I'm not sure that we really had a tool to keep them from putting over on the water. And it was clearly dangerous. And in the end, they decided not to do it. But people will put over in the water, put on the water thinking it's okay, and their lack of experience makes them think it's okay, but it's definitely not okay.
Right.
There's floating debris, there's things under the water you can't see.
And I think I go back to what we said earlier. I think a lot of times when people get involved in something like this, it's that surprise or that shock that initially gets them into the panic of now what do I do? And that's the downfall. That's where you start to spiral downwards because you're not understanding the power of the water and how fast it's going, all the other things around you, and just doesn't. A lot of the outcomes are not very good.
And I had referenced talking about a fatality in Page County. So it doesn't necessarily matter the depth of the water. So this particular one occurred on a pond, basically. And if the water's, deeper than, if you can't stand up, and even if you can, if there's current, that'll push you down. But again, life jackets were a factor. The weather, the wind, the temperature was a factor where they ended up going over. And unfortunately, 2 of them lost their lives. So, if you're going to put over on any body, it doesn't matter if it's the river or lake or a pond, you should be wearing a life jacket.
Right.
The law requires it be on the boat. But, again, how much is your life worth? You spend the money, get a nice one, and wear it.
Right.
Because you're not planning, obviously, on capsizing. It's just one of those things that happens. It's an accident.
Right. Well, Owen, I really appreciate all the tips that you've given us and information today. Is there anything that we're missing?
I don't think so. I think the point is if, just like hunting, if you're going to choose to hunt, fish, boat, the onus is on you to be safe and to do some research on, your own before you go out. And in some of these cases, that can make the difference between life or death when it comes to the water. So the information's out there. It's on our website, tells you where the dams are, what sections of river, and you can plan your trip accordingly to avoid that dam or take out before you get to it. Or if you do have to deal with it, at least you know that there is a dam on this trip and you should be prepared to eddy out when you get up close to it and portage around.
Right.
So you'll be hopefully have a much more enjoyable trip than being surprised by a dam, popping up on your way. So.
Right. Well, Owen, again, thanks so much for coming in, and we really appreciate the help that you give the Sheriff's Office in Shenandoah County. And I know that the staff that are probably getting pretty busy this time of year because people are out and enjoying their natural resources in Virginia, and especially in our area as well. So, again, thanks so much for that. Thanks for coming today and giving us that information.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Sure. And with that, I appreciate you guys watching. Again, this is Shenandoah County Sheriff Tim Carter. You can find this and all of our other podcasts on my YouTube channel at Timothy Carter. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe so you can get new show notifications. Thanks so much.